let's close down another week, shall we? It is just after 4:30 Eastern in the late afternoon on Friday, June 6th. Welcome inside the channel. I'm bobtrosset. This episode is brought to you by my friends at Preston Automotive Group, and there's quite a bit to get into before we officially kickstart Belmont weekend. For those of you who are in the horse racing community, it is in Saratoga Springs this year, coming up this weekend, and I am in Albany, New York, where I grew up. So Saratoga, about 50 minutes north. Enjoy it. Weather's absolutely horrific all weekend long, so stay safe, stay dry, stay warm, all that good stuff. Here's what I have. Mike Florio is talking about Lamar Jackson's future and potentially next contract extension that could very well be in the works based on what Eric DaCosta has shared, and he sparked a debate or draw on the ire of the fan base. And so I'm going to react to that based on his recent comments. From there, we'll go through OTA's attendance. Keaton Mitchell making it clear that he has a compelling update on his recovery timeline, his ongoing recovery from, of course, that ACL tear from a year or two ago. Devontae Walker continues to have a successful camp. The news and notes surrounding the second-year player at the wide receiver position. Malachi Starks is flashing. John Gruden evaluated the Ravens and gave his Gruden grinders and how Tyler Loop is faring so far, including Rashod Bateman. John Harbaugh reacts to Rashod Bateman's contract extension that was announced earlier this week. So with that said, glad to be with you guys again today. Started on the vault, ending here on the Bobby Baltimore side of things. If you could, please like the video on your way in. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell. And if you want to learn more about Preston and use my $500 credit towards a new or pre-owned vehicle, scan the QR code that's in the upper right-hand corner that you see right now. Off we go. Let's talk about attendance first, and then we'll get into this potential extension that could be in the works and why I think Mike Florio is a little off base here. I get it, but he's off base because of what Lamar Jackson's overall impact is, has been, and will continue to be for the Ravens, and why his value is immeasurable in a lot of ways. First of all, he was one of many that did not participate in this week's second session of voluntary organized team activities. Not a surprise. Derrick Henry, also on this list of those that were not in attendance, did not participate. Kyle Hamilton, Nnamdi Madubuike, right? Core players, veteran players, slew of them. Tyler Linderbaum, Zay Flowers, Rashod Bateman, DeAndre Hopkins, Kyle Van Noy, Odafe Owe, Justice Hill, Jake Hummel, who just had a baby, he and his wife, Sanusi Kane, Rasheen Ali, Anthony Miller, Emory Jones, continuing to deal with that shoulder, the labrum. So, again, certainly not something that I think even in the slightest deserves more conversation than simply just here's the attendance. Here's John Harbaugh, though, being asked about Lamar's lack of attendance.
I'm not taking any position on it. It's judging it, whatever. Lamar, the day he was out here, played great. I could see he was in great shape. Threw the ball great, made the reads, knew the offense excellent in an excellent kind of way. I thought he was fantastic. And when he comes back and practices, when that happens, I expect him to play at that level. That's what you measure. You measure for any player, it's how they play. I'm not measuring, really the attendance. I mean, it's a voluntary camp, so you're not measuring that. I mean, I love being out here, and I think all the players do. And when Lamar's out here, I promise you, he loves being out here. You could see it when he was out here. So he's my guy. I love him, and I can't wait to just get into this season and get going.
Would expect nothing less there from Harbaugh. And honestly, again, I don't think there's much to be said about Lamar's lack of attendance. He showed up the first week. He's obviously been actively involved, and he has mastered Todd Monken's scheme over the last couple of years. That's the obvious elephant in the room. John Harbaugh's answer that you just heard there was in response to a question asked by Jeff Zrebiec if his lack of attendance this week was related at all to his contract. Now, that's interesting, the way that question was posed after Eric DaCosta went on the Baltimore Baseball podcast with Mike Bordick and Jerry Coleman recently and had this to say about the status of where those talks are regarding a potential extension.
Talking with him right now about things, or just letting things lie as they are?
Well, we've had some conversations before the draft, after the draft, in person last week. I think we're in the introductory sort of stage of looking at what an extension might look like. We've got a lot of business that we're conducting with different players, and we're in a situation where we're blessed to have most of the team coming back. But as we look out over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we're trying to keep as many good players as we can. So we've got some guys that we feel like have the chance to really be prolific players for us that can be here a long time. We're trying to get as many of those guys signed up as possible. That's a big challenge, and Lamar's certainly a big part of that, but there are other players as well.
That was EDC, released earlier this week on the Baltimore Baseball Podcast, covered that on the Vault, and it's notable, right? Because conversations have been taking place now for weeks, if not months. He said prior to the draft, after the draft, and as recently as in person last week. Notable. Could things kind of start to get ramped up here over the next month and a half or so, 2 months prior to the season? We know what his current cap hit stands with going into 2025. It's $43.5 million. Okay. That skyrockets should he remain on this current structured deal, which would be ludicrous for both sides, really. Because if Lamar's ultimate goal is to win a Super Bowl, it'd be ludicrous for him to play on $74.5 million. Okay. It's going to jump to $74.5 million in 2026. It's at $43.5 million. Why would it be ludicrous for Lamar? Because that's going to hamper Eric's ability to team build. And it'd obviously be ludicrous for obvious reasons from a front office perspective. So that's sort of the stress that they're under right now, the Ravens are, in wanting to get this done at some point in the near future so that it can free them up. They could be a little bit more flexible and have some options this time next year. It's got to be earlier than this time next year, prior to free agency, prior to everything that they're going to have to get done in order to build an effective team. Now, all of a sudden, too, it's crazy how quarterback money works, and it's crazy how quickly things can change, because it was just in 2023 that Lamar signed a 5-year, $260 million deal, right? $185 million of which was guaranteed. That was the 2023 offseason. And at the time, it made him the NFL's highest paid player. But look at this graphic here by NBC. All of a sudden, in terms of average annual value, Lamar is close to falling outside of the top 10. And this is somebody that a lot of people had as an MV3 candidate last year. I know Mike Florio voted for him. He told me that verbatim in New Orleans when we were working on Radio Row at the Super Bowl. So $52 million in average annual value is 10th most among quarterbacks. Dak Prescott leads the way at 60. Josh Allen, new deal, of course, that really set the floor and in a lot of ways provided a blueprint for Lamar and his representation, meaning himself. By the way, in that same interview on the Baltimore Baseball Podcast, Eric noted that his mother was never directly involved, meaning Felicia Jones, Lamar's mother, was never directly involved in the negotiation process. And it was literally he and Lamar. And he referred to Lamar's negotiating habits and tactics and abilities as shrewd. So that working relationship continues to be dynamite. Now, that blueprint that I just mentioned a minute ago, Josh and the Bills agreed to a 6-year, $330 million deal back in March. It included the largest guarantee in NFL history, 250 M's. Okay, so what I mean by the floor, that's the floor for Lamar, you would think. Where he shouldn't be right now is on the floor of the top 10 highest paid in terms of average annual value quarterbacks in the league. He's behind Justin Herbert, Brock Purdy, Jared Goff, Tua Tagovailoa, Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, and the top 3 are Burrow, Allen, and Prescott. Really, there's 3 players that are all tied at 55, interlocked at 55 M's. That's Josh, that's Joe, and that's Trevor. Now let's get to Mike Florio, who had this to say on his recent episode of Pro Football Talk when it comes to Lamar's future in Baltimore, including a guarantee, one of Mike's guarantees. Listen to this.
Joe Flacco. He was the 18th overall pick in the 2008 draft. Okay. 2012, Super Bowl MVP. which came at the perfect time because he'd bet on himself, put him in a position to be then the highest paid quarterback in the NFL as of 2013. And the way the contract was structured, the way their cap was, a couple of years later they had to redo the deal, and once again he was the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. He was twice the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Okay? By 2018, when Joe Flacco was firmly entrenched as a starting quarterback of the Ravens with no thought that they would be thinking about doing anything other than riding with Joe Flacco, what did they do? They drafted Lamar Jackson. Traded back into round one and drafted Lamar Jackson. And Flacco was at some draft party in the Inner Harbor, and it was like, well, this is awkward. I'm only saying that because that was 2018, 10 years after Flacco arrived in 2008. Well, the calendar now is 2025. We're possibly 3 years away from the Ravens quietly developing an affinity for a quarterback that's entering the NFL and quietly positioning themselves to get that guy and quietly stepping away from Lamar Jackson. I mean, that's what they did. Lamar Jackson's a better quarterback.
Yeah.
But my point is this. Every player has a shelf life. Every player has a shelf life. And every team, they're always looking. As I motion toward the imaginary football machine, and for some reason it's sitting here every time I think about it. The football machine where you take out the part and you throw it aside and you plug the new one in. And the Ravens have proven over the years that they are meticulous, that they are calculated, they are strategic. I guarantee you they're already thinking, how many more years are we going to get out of Lamar Jackson, and when do we need to start thinking about finding our next quarterback? I guarantee you they're already thinking about that.
Quite the guarantee there from Mike Florio, friend of the show, by the way. Here's the quote. We're possibly 3 years away from the Ravens quietly developing an affinity for a quarterback that's entering the NFL and quietly stepping away from Lamar Jackson. Every player has a shelf life. I guarantee they're already thinking, how many more years are we going to get out of Lamar? And when do we need to start thinking about finding our next quarterback? That from Mike Florio. And this from me. I think this is premature. I think this is completely premature. We would be naive to sit here and think when it comes, if we were to put our organizational hats on and a business prowess, we would be crazy not to think that organizations aren't always thinking 10 steps ahead of everyone else and having contingency and emergency plans in place at all times. That's why the Ravens went and got one of the most capable, serviceable, and experienced veteran backup quarterbacks in the entire league who was available this offseason in Cooper Rush. Probably why they were interested in Baker Mayfield a couple of years ago before he found his new home in Tampa Bay. But this is way too premature. This is a player that, aside from the 2020 and 2021 seasons, has completely proven that he is durable, up for the task in terms of taking on the war of attrition, and has longevity and has enhanced his game in all facets as a passer, outside the numbers, intermediate game, you name it. Short accuracy, long accuracy. Yeah, the deep ball needs to continue, but he and Bateman certainly found a spark last year. This is a player that continues to show that he still has juice when he needs it, when the team needs it, when the defense gives it to him on the ground. He can still use his legs to make positive plays. This is a player that is coming off of what most felt like, aside from a few voters who did the old swap when it comes to All-Pro and MVP voting, felt like he should be MV3. And most importantly, this is a player that is deserving of record-setting money at some point in the near future, which will reset the market. I think this is premature from Mike, but at the same time, I understand the thinking. I just think it's way too premature. Lamar is 28, guys. And aside from those blips on the radar, that I mentioned already in 2020 and 21, fluke types of injuries that led to a lot of tumultuous conversation, injury prone, all kinds of labels being thrown out at Lamar earlier on in his career. Aside from those setbacks, he has been nothing short of durable, excellent, consistent, and constantly improving. And so, if anything right now is related to his lack of attendance, it's just that he knows how to best serve his offseason and best serve himself. Because remember, we got on this discussion because a reporter asked John about if Lamar's lack of attendance at OTAs was related to the contract. And that reporter asked that question because of Eric DeCosta's comments that made their way into the social media world this week after his podcast appearance, noting that as recently as last week in person, discussions are being had related to the contract extension. And knowing that in 2026, that cap number skyrockets to $70+ million, knowing that right now it is well over and well north of $40 million. That's how we got here. If I'm the Ravens, while you always have to have contingency plans in place, you want this guy to be in Baltimore for the next decade plus. He has changed. He has transcended the game, transcended the position. You want him to be drafted a Raven and retire a Raven. And you want multiple Super Bowls. And in order to achieve all of that and continue to add to the rich history and culture of the Baltimore Ravens organization, you have got to keep the staple, the face, not only of the organization, not only of the city, but one of the faces of the league in Baltimore. You have to. 77 figures is right. Aaron Rodgers is 41 years old. He's just been signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers. He'll be going up against the Ravens for at least the next year, for at least 2 more times, assuming they don't meet in the postseason, which they have in the past, in the recent past. He's 41 years old. If Lamar plays the next 3-4 years with Derrick Henry, or at least the next 2, can you imagine what kind of NFL years, if you will, are going to be added on to the back end of his career, knowing that the king and that presence and that workhorse and that option that Todd Monken has at his disposal is alive and well? One of the main reasons why Lamar and Derrick complement one another is because they both add to each other's longevity. And that's probably not what's not discussed enough. Lamar is 28 years old. He'll turn 29 in next year's postseason. The Ravens should absolutely sign him to a 5+ year extension. Get it done. We've seen throughout the Lamar era what this team looks like without number 8 under center. And it's not something that you want to grow accustomed to watching. Robbie Pates checking in with a super chat. What's going on, Robbie? I get what he's saying, meaning Mike Florio's comments, but Flacco's situation was different. Joe struggled post-Super Bowl. Guess we'll have to prove Mike wrong by getting that extension. I don't know if he's advocating the Ravens to not extend him per se, but certainly he feels like the end of the Lamar era could be in 3 years in Baltimore. That's not to say that he won't be elsewhere. If the end of the Lamar era is in 3 years in Baltimore, something terrible will have went wrong. And a terrible decision could potentially have went wrong as well and have been made. So again, I think it's premature. I think it's obviously there's an understanding that comes along with these comments of the business side of football, and obviously knowing that the quarterback position is paramount to have it down pat and maybe getting even out in front of it, which is what led the Ravens to drafting Lamar when Joe Flacco was still a bona fide starter in this league. But look at him now. So there will come a time that the Ravens have to make a very hard decision and maybe find, like Mike said, they find themselves having an affinity, embracing an affinity for a quarterback prospect. I don't think that time is right now. And they'll continue, the more that they continue to sign veterans as their backups, the Josh Johnsons of the world. Tyler Huntley wasn't a veteran, but I think that was probably a favor to Lamar, being that they grew up together in South Florida. The Cooper Rushes of the world, right? That's just validating the overall point here. They don't feel like the end of the Lamar era is anytime soon. Those are my thoughts on it. Let me know what you guys think. Take your super chats. As always, want to continue the conversation, and I will in just a second, because Keaton Mitchell shared a very compelling update in terms of where he's at in his ongoing recovery timeline from that ACL tear a couple years ago now. But first, this episode is brought to you by my friends at Preston Automotive Group, and you guys know Preston has been so good to me, and they will be good to you too if for some reason you are interested in working with them, getting in a vehicle. If you're looking for your next ride, Preston Automotive Group's the way to go. They got locations nearby if you're in the Baltimore area. They do ship across the country, by the way, if you are outside of Maryland. I know some of you are. But with locations nearby in Aberdeen and Randallstown, for those of you who are local, and all across Delmarva, Preston has the selection and the deals to get you on the road today. They've got over 2,000 vehicles to choose from. Home delivery is available, which I love. If you click on the link that's included in the pinned comment in the live chat, it'll take you to the site, Preston Motor, and my specific unique URL. So all you got to if you walk into a dealership, if you call them and you say, hey, I'm a Bobby Baltimore subscriber and I'm interested, I got a vehicle in mind. Maybe you just already looked through the local, the available inventory section. All you got to tell them, hey, I'm a subscriber of Bobby's. That'll allow you to cash in on $500, and you can use that towards a new or pre-owned vehicle, or you can buy 4 tires if you're in need, and you'll receive 50% off your alignment. Okay, so those are the 2 deals running. You can contact them easily right here by going through this simple form. And like I mentioned, right now they've got over 3,400 available vehicles in their open inventory that you can literally just sift through. If you don't want to randomly sift, then search by make, model, or keyword if you're looking for specifics, price, vehicle condition. I mean, you can break this thing down to the nth degree if you want. And look at all these locations for those of you in the area. Wilmington, Delaware, Randallstown, that's my home dealership. Pittsville, Maryland, Millsboro, Delaware, Lewis, Delaware, Keller, Virginia, Hurlock, Maryland, Georgetown, Delaware, Dover, Delaware, Aberdeen, Maryland. I'm telling you, these guys are fantastic to work with. Here are a bunch of other dealerships as well. Locations, dealerships, body style. I mean, if you're a car nut, look no further. Thanks to Preston. Scan the QR code in the upper right-hand corner if you're interested in learning more. On to Keaton Mitchell, a former undrafted rookie. What's Keaton all about these days? Well, I'll let him tell you, as he told us rather confidently on the night of the draft back in April. Listen to this.
Got here, I ran like 22.2, so I just hit 22.4 a couple weeks ago, so definitely feeling good, back to myself. So
22.4 miles an hour if you didn't catch that. So yeah, a couple of weeks ago. He said he's overcome the mental challenge of coming back from his significant knee injury back in December of 2023, as Jameson noted here on X. I'm out there like normal, just being confident in my knee. Remember, he told us it's going to be a movie on draft night when he was kind enough to spend what felt like an hour. What about special teams, though? We've seen him be experimented, used as an experiment within that realm. And we know the type of speed, explosiveness, vision that he's been gifted with athletically. Could he potentially find his way in as a return specialist this upcoming season? Keaton?
A kick return role, is that something
oh yeah,
you'd
for sure.
embrace?
I'm definitely doing that, especially since if it's a touchback, it'll go to the 35. So I'm pretty sure teams will put it in play, and I want to be the one to return the kickoff returns and being able to be like a Devin Hester, like a don't kick it to that type of guy. So
Devin Hester, a don't kick it to that kind of guy. He wants to be Devin Hester type returner. He doesn't have much experience returning kicks, as Jonas notes here. But with the NFL rules, he said the concepts are similar to outside zone schemes as a running back. You know, for Keaton, what a tricky couple of years it's been. Keaton is an undrafted player. His father, Anthony, was a part of the Super Bowl team back in 2000 with Brian Billick and company. But of course, Keaton, undrafted in 23 out of East Carolina, right? Had a prolific college career. And then all of a sudden in 23, he just burst onto the scene, right? They're doing all sorts of stuff with him in Baltimore's backfield prior to Derrick Henry's arrival. And then he goes down with that brutal freaking ACL tear in December and busts his butt to try and get back in 24. They signed Derrick Henry in the offseason. Justice Hill gets an extension. And all of a sudden, Keaton probably feels like he's on the outside looking in. I mean, this is the type of player that it's such an element of speed and explosiveness and twitchiness that he just left you wanting more in just 8 games his rookie season. 396 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. He averaged 8.4 yards per attempt. But then he goes down. And again, you bring in the king. Justice continues to add to his role. And I'd imagine it's been a tough pill for Keaton to swallow. Because last year, usage-wise, he was barely used. He was barely available. He only played in 5 games. So now, even though that backfield is more than established with Lamar, of course, always an option, the king going to be the bell cow, and Justice Hill being a guy that has earned the right to be in this rotation and continues to expand his role, I hope they can find a way to get Keaton in, even if it is in small situational sample sizes. Give him an opportunity to be the primary return specialist. Why not? This dude's a baller. His field vision might be his best attribute. But more so than anything else, dude feels awfully confident right now, doesn't he? Another dude that's building confidence is Devontae Walker. 2nd-year player, 4th-round pick out of North Carolina last year. Did not see much of him in his rookie season. He was inactive for the majority of the first half. And then we saw a little bit of him down the stretch, mostly on special teams. Hell of a toe drag touchdown against the Giants. But as Nikhil notes here, bird's eye view, beat reporter vantage point from one winning drive, Ravens OTAs. Tez made a tough over-the-shoulder catch on a nice deep ball from Devin Leary, backup QB, during today's practice. The Ravens have 3 starters in Flowers, Bateman, and Hopkins, but Walker could push Tylan Wallace for rotational reps if he continues his strong spring. I think Devontae is without question a lock, obviously. The 4th-round pick from a year ago, how could he not be a lock? Barring something, unexpected. I think they're going to go 6 wide receivers. The obvious ones, like Nikhil mentioned, Zay, Bateman, D-Hop. From there, you go Tylan Wallace, Devontae Walker, LeJontay Wester. I think those are the 6. I know a lot of you want the Cinderella story of Dayton Wade, last year's undrafted rookie that made some noise in the summer, and he's going to have his shot to do so. He's on that 90-man roster right now, but I think those are the 6. Good to see Devontae, though, much like he was this time last year, generating a little bit of interest. I did hear, though, and I relayed that information to you right here on this channel, that Devontae last summer was seen by some as not being NFL ready. Let's see if he can take a big leap and continue his development at the position. More notes. Jeff reiterated what you heard from Nikhil about Devontae. He's had a nice day and a very good offseason to this point. Nate Wiggins had an interception, as did undrafted free agent Ruben Lowry. Tennessee Chattanooga, I believe he played his college football. And that's for the 2nd consecutive day, so good for Ruben. Travis Jones had a pick. It was more in the walkthrough period. Robbo down in Jeff's mentions asked about Mike Green, and Jeff was honest with him. I have a hard time evaluating pass rushers in non-contact practices where edge rushers are instructed to not go near the quarterback. They're not allowed to do one-on-one pass rush. They're not allowed to do one-on-one pass rush drills yet at OTAs, so I haven't gotten a good gauge of where he's at. You know who has gotten at least a decent enough gauge to talk about him in this glowing fashion? It's defensive coordinator Zach Orr on Mike Green, his rookie.
Who comes out here and works, but from a physical standpoint, I mean, his get off is real, and he understands the level of the quarterback, man. So I think he's going to be a real valuable piece for us. He's strong, he's explosive, he can rush on the outside and he can rush on the inside. So one thing we always say, you can never have enough rushers, man, and he's going to add to that room, and it's going to be a great valuable piece for us. But I'm happy with Mike. I think that he's doing a good job with what he can do right now, given the restrictions with the pads and everything. But I think training camp and preseason, you guys really start to see, what abilities he really has.
You heard the man. He referred to him as a valuable piece. You heard him. Mike Green, 17.5 sacks last year at Marshall. Pads have not come on yet. His defensive coordinator likes what he sees. It's early. Temper expectations. But could this dude come out and be an immediate impact player for the Ravens at a position where they have depth, but they need somebody to complement what they got last year from Adafe and obviously the seasoned veteran in Kyle Van Noy, both of whom hit that double-digit sack mark a season ago. How about the rook? Another rook, Malachi Starks. Last we heard about him was John Harbaugh within the last week or two, noting that he has yet to make a mistake, but the flashy plays haven't come yet. He's processing a lot, drinking from the fire hose in the aftermath of Ardarius Washington's Achilles tear. But his first splash, if you will, his first splash, he picked off Cooper Rush. So good for Malachi. Zach Orr spoke earlier about Kyle Hamilton's presence and the importance of just his sheer willingness to bring guys under his tutelage. All of a sudden, Kyle's viewed as he's like 25, isn't he? 24, 25 years old. Guy's young as heck. Yet, in a lot of ways, with the amount of NFL miles, under his tires, this is where I start to just lose my ability to speak English. But Zach is obviously speaking about the importance level of Kyle just being around for the rookie in Malachi.
I think that could change week by be ball hawks and be ball control back there, man. Great communicators, great leaders. Get us right, get us in and out of the right calls, nothing over our heads, and then make plays back there. I think last week when K-Ham was here with Malachi, it was great to see those guys kind of start building that chemistry. And I already seen the impact that K-Ham has had on Malachi with his communication, his knowledge, and just his football savvy. And so Malachi's picking that up. I got a great vision for those guys. I think they're going to help us out and play great football for us.
Can't hurt at all. Good stuff there from ZO. And a familiar face was at OTAs this week. Former Super Bowl winning NFL head coach and one of the best follows on social media right now since he began his media career. John Gruden. Last 2 days, John Harbaugh talked about having him around and the importance of not only just his experience, but his study. He actually studied the Ravens, did Gruden.
A couple times because we're down here. My Ellison was playing down there. He's down there in Lutz, got his office and his place there. And then we went down there last offseason as an offensive staff, as Monk and I, and George Godsey, and spent some time with him down there. So he's been around with us, and known him since he was in Philly. When I was coming in, and he was going out to be the head coach of the Raiders. Got to know him a little bit. Just utmost respect.
What, you gave him a locker and you gave him here? Did you give him the playbook?
No, we didn't give him the playbook. We didn't give him a script either. You only go so far. You got to draw the line somewhere. Good question.
What did he see? Just in terms of looking at you guys, what was it? Some of that insight you shared?
Yeah, to give you a general overview, he studied us. And basically the message was, if I was game planning against you, your defense, what would I do? How would I attack you guys? And he didn't just stop there. He watched our offensive guys. He talked to our offensive guys, looked at all the players, had something for each player. Just phenomenal and very, very detailed. Great teacher too.
Proven grinders.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. He was grinding pretty good on some guys. He was letting them know where they can get better, which I respect. I think a great coach is not afraid to tell people where they can improve, and doesn't every player want to know that? And he has so much respect for guys, and still at the same time letting them know that, hey, this is what I see you can improve at.
Grinding good on guys, huh? I got your Gruden grinders for you. First of all, he's showing some love to Pat Ricard, who, hint, hint, is absolutely a Gruden grinder. Here he is, John, tweeting with a photo attached as well. Pat Ricard, 42. I call him the straw man. He handles the C gap on the line of scrimmage. He pass protects for Lamar and lead blocks for Derrick Henry. He's the straw that stirs the drink. Straw man. I love him. AJ Gersh, local reporter, was like, hey, who are your Gruden grinders? Who are they? Pat Ricard leading the list. Tyler Linderbaum, Marlon Humphrey, and Tylan Wallace. They have some great ones. That from the great Super Bowl winning head coach, John Gruden, who spent the last couple days in Baltimore. I don't believe he'll be unemployed in terms of NFL employment for that long. I honestly thought that this past year's hiring cycle, he was going to be all over it. But maybe it'll be one more year. Glad you guys can be with me on this Friday. Please like the video on your way in. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when I'm dropping my daily content. You can support the channel by supporting my brand sponsor, Preston Automotive Group. More notes from OTAs and, of course, special teams at the top of mind, given all the change. First of all, look at CoCap, Anthony Levine Sr. watching rookie Tyler Loop get some kicks in. See him in the sweatshirt right behind Tyler's right hand? There he is. CoCap, former special teamer, former defender for the Ravens. And they have been rotating kickers. This was from the 5th yesterday, Thursday. John Hoyland is the undrafted rookie that's competing, quote unquote, competing against Tyler Loop. Obviously, it's Tyler's job to lose as the draft pick. But John struggled yesterday. He went 3 of 6. He made from 42, 39, and 46. Missed from 56, 51, and 49. As for Tyler, Friday was his day, meaning today. He was in good form. He hit from 60 with plenty of room for more. That's what John Harbaugh said. Jeff Zrebiec noting it on X. So Tyler has a big, big leg. More on him from Nikhil. He went 6 for 6. Perfect. All right down the middle according to Harbs, including, again, that 60-yarder. So far, it's what you expect. And there's Randy Brown, of course, special teams consultant, assistant coach to John Harbaugh. So far, Loop is clearly in the running over John Hoyland, the undrafted rookie, and I don't think that's much of a surprise. So as we continue to follow life after Justin Tucker, that's your kicking update. As for Rashod Bateman, John Harbaugh talked about his extension that he was awarded this week, and Bateman opened up a little bit. Damn, Corbin Burns is going to have Tommy John surgery next week, for those of you who followed that storyline with the Orioles and what they offered him, and he ultimately goes to the Diamondbacks this past offseason after being a stud ace for Baltimore last year. He's shutting it down. Tommy John surgery for Corbin Burns. So, tough to truly predict things when it comes to spending and trying to look ahead and fill out your bullpen. Not in this case, it'd be your rotation. He'd obviously be a centerpiece for your rotation. But for the Diamondbacks, he's not even going to be available to be a centerpiece. That just came out a minute ago here. But back to Bateman, who feels incredibly grateful. Baltimore believed in me from the start, and this extension means a lot. I want to thank Mr. Bisciotti, Eric DaCosta, and Coach Harbaugh and the entire coaching staff for their trust and support. It's been a journey of growth on and off the field. To my teammates, thank you for pushing me, holding me down, and making this locker room feel like home. The relationships I've built here mean everything. I've learned a lot, matured, and grown as both a player and a person. This city has shaped me in ways I'll never forget. Excited for what's ahead. Let's get to work. Batman, Bate. He says the revenge tour's on. That's what he told Morgan Adsit this week.
Can you let yourself enjoy that more of the season you had, the production you had throughout all the injuries and adversity you had leading up to last year?
No, I mean, somebody asked me that, but it's kind of hard. I do feel like I'm on a revenge tour. I kind of want to get the years back that I had and plus some. So the mindset that I have, I've been trying to enjoy where we were last year, but the way things ended, it's hard to focus on what I've done. I kind of want to be more for this team and whatever that looks like, and just be prepared to eventually get to the Super Bowl.
Continues to say and do all the right things time and time again. And if he can't even think about what he did last year, man, all power to him. I mean, a career year for him, 9 touchdowns, 756 receiving yards, 45 touchdowns. He averaged 16.8 yards per reception. And yet the guy's on a revenge tour, he says. There it is, a revenge tour incoming for number 7 and the Ravens. And should it work out, that revenge tour hopefully leads him all the way to San Francisco, Levi Stadium, for the Super Bowl, February of 2026. John Harbaugh talked about this moment and how much it means to Rashod and the organization to get it done.
You know, and he's him and Zay, I think both have done so well as drafted wide receivers here. First-round picks. To see those guys be successful, to see Rashod be successful. I love him. I always have from day one. I think he's always been so determined. He just wants so badly to be great. And to watch him grow these last couple of years the way he has to where he's at now, and I really believe where he's going to go, just looking for him to continue to just like a rocket ship, man, take off.
If that's the case, the offense will continue to take off as well because they have so many options, and he provided quite the spark to the deep ball game and really just brought us another level, another element of explosiveness, silky route running, right? Sure hands. Yes, there were a couple that resulted in interceptions that shouldn't have been on blemish for Lamar's resume, which was otherwise clean and nearly perfect last year. But the Bateman experiment, the separation that he continues to create, man, the straight line speed, I feel like the best is yet to come for number 7. And the fact that he is now under contract through 2029 speaks volumes. And he wants to be here. He wants to be in Baltimore. He wants to continue to build on what he's been able to do really the last 2 years, which starts and ends with a clean bill of health. He's been healthy and clean the last 2 seasons. Should that continue, I expect his numbers to continue to rise and continue to go north. Speaking of rising, Derrick Henry is on the rise, and you already know. I got to fit it in. It's my favorite phrase. He's an ascending player at 31 at the running back position, a transcendent, historic player who just so happens to have an affinity for the great Adam Sandler. And he joined Dan Patrick earlier this week, and he and Dan are chatting. And at the end of the interview, Derrick's like, I'm sure you guys have seen it by now. Derrick's like, hey, I really like your sweatshirt. He's like, oh, thanks. It's for Happy Gilmore, too. He's like, oh, my God, Dan, will you please tell whenever you see Adam Sandler next that I said hello? I'm one of his biggest fans. I'd love to meet him one day. Dan's like, you know what, actually? I'll text him today. Must be nice. I'll text him today. Well, that's exactly what Dan did. He did text him. And you know what he ended up getting in return? A video, a selfie video from Adam Sandler designed specifically for the King. Pretty awesome.
Hey, Sandman, it's Danny. We just had Derrick Henry on, and I made some promises. I said if he rushed for 2,000 yards this season that we would put him in a Sandler movie. No pressure. And he said that he's a big fan. I want to know if you could do a video and just say congratulations and whatever. Just you be you. And I'm going to pass it on to him. But he's a huge fan. He saw my hoodie that I have that has the Happy Gilmore 2 on it. And so he was very excited. But if you can do that this morning, that would be great. I'm doing the show until noon Eastern. And then I'll wait to hear from you.
Damn, that's my dog. Ross. There he is. How you doing, bud? Yo, Derrick, I just woke up. You know that. That's why I look disgusting, on top of the fact that I am disgusting. But I love you. Congrats on everything, baby. 2,000 yards plus this year gets you not only in the movie, but we have a nice dinner together and talk about Dan Patrick's facial hair and how hard it is for him to grow it. I love you. Keep it up. This guy says hello.
Oh, that's what's up.
Apparently he's itchy this morning. He's scratching himself on the wall. I'm in a hotel right now. I'm sure you've been in a few. Okay. Love you, buddy. Take care. Again, sorry for the disgusting face. Woohoo!
No, man, you gotta send me that, man.
Yeah, I'll send that to you.
I appreciate that, man. Hell yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, got that done.
And Derrick Henry sent me a direct message to thank me for hooking him up with Adam Sandler. So Sandler had his bulldog with him. Here's the direct message that Dan, thank you, sending the message in the video. That was really cool. Much love, Derrick Henry. But Sandman has his bulldog there walking along the hallway in this hotel, scratching himself.
The dog's walking along, walking along the wall, scratching them as they're going.
Derrick Henry, Fritzy, is telling me he was with us on Tuesday. So Tuesday, Sandman recorded the video, got it to Derrick, and then we wanted to record his reaction to Sandman offering up a movie role in... who knows? Might be Grown Ups 3 or Happy Gilmore 3. Who knows?
That's awesome.
Yes. Thank you, Sandman.
That's absolutely electric. And how about the turnaround time there from Dan Patrick? Standing by his promise to get that done. And now all Derrick has to do is get 2,000 yards rushing done, and he's going to be in a movie, and he gets himself a dinner with Adam Sandler, who is authentic as authentic gets. The authenticity is oozing out of that video. I happen to love that freaking guy too. And his bulldog seems pretty chill too. He just brings his dog around from hotel to hotel. That's kind of hysterical. I would love to know the inner workings of the life of an Adam Sandler type. The guy's a friggin' legendary figure. And then, of course, the king. Dan, you're a real one. At Adam Sandler is the GOAT. I appreciate the extra motivation. Pretty cool meetup. And a very random one at that. But a cool one as well. I figured that'd be a nice place to finish off on this Friday. Guys, when you support our brand sponsors, you're supporting the show, and I would love for you to do that. To Preston Automotive Group, they continue to make this channel run. You can visit the show notes. You can visit the pinned comment in the live chat. You can scan the QR code that's in the upper right-hand corner to go check them out, and the Bobby Baltimore perks are there right for the taking. You can also join the Bobby Baltimore Discord server. It's 24/7 hub for conversations surrounding Baltimore sports, and there is constantly, and I mean constantly, chatter in here. We talk football. We talk Orioles baseball. They're on a little bit of a run right now. 6 in a row? They're rolling, and yes, Jabbo is talking about what I just mentioned earlier on. Corbin Burns, Tommy John surgery. Oof, 6 years, $210 million for the D-backs just to not have him be available in year one. We talk Capitals hockey, general everything, basically, literally everything. Maryland Terps, athletics across the board. You get a shout-out welcome when you join. It is free to do so. I just hit the link that's in the show notes. Super easy. Great way to interact with me. Great way to basically have 24/7 live chats. That's what it is. It's growing every day. There's almost 1,000 members in here. Hopefully we can hit that before the start of the season. I appreciate you guys so much. Click the link, join, download Discord, come hang out. I hope you guys have an awesome weekend. Golf for me tomorrow. Drinks with my mother in Albany coming up here in a few minutes. Like the video on your way out. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell. You guys know how it goes. Thanks for a fantastic week. Hopefully Sarah and her daughter London are enjoying Europe. They'll be back coming up in about a week or so. And so we move. We continue to move. There's going to be plenty more content to come next week, including OTAs coverage and everything else in between. So thank you. Have an awesome weekend. Appreciate you guys as always.